The power of empathy, building meaningful connections. Introduction to empathy. How often do we misunderstand the feelings of others? How usually do we wish we felt appreciated or cared for more deeply? How frequently do we misunderstand our feelings or feel our needs are being ignored even if they are being addressed? Although many people answer often to those questions, only a few think deep connections are impossible. But perhaps we are all mistaken to some extent or another. Instead, building understanding and empathy for oneself and others is more possible than many believe. Empathy is relatively simple in its definition. It is the ability to comprehend and share the feelings of others. It is not a magical gift that just a few gifted people possess. Instead, it is a skill that can be developed, nurtured, and implemented. One cannot become empathetic without developing an honest, ongoing attitude that prioritizes the feelings of oneself and others. Being compassionate toward oneself and the people we see, talk to, and experience regularly is imperative. However, empathy is also a powerful tool that can remedy several social and psychological quandaries of scripted misunderstandings between majority and minority groups. A passionate and pragmatic working definition of empathy's overall role and purpose is not limited. Instead, it is built upon a foundation that consistently seeks to understand the subtleties and uniqueness of personal and collective experiences. Definition and importance. One of the greatest blessings of simply being human is our ability to form and maintain close relationships with each other. We are wired for it. We have a deeply rooted need for acceptance, friendship, and affection. High-quality relationships not only make us happier, but they also help us live longer, more prosperous lives. So how do we form those close relationships? One key factor is empathy, or the ability to experience the feelings of others, to imagine what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes. When we empathize with others, we can sense the emotions behind people's words and behaviors, which enables us to respond to those emotions with sensitivity and support. Empathy is crucial because it promotes positive, meaningful connections with others. When we try to understand where another person is coming from, we show that we care. Whether comforting a friend, going through a tough time, or supporting our coworkers, when their passion shines bright, empathy fosters constructive, cooperative, and positive relationships. In addition, empathy is an essential social skill to have and demonstrate, as it allows us to navigate complex relationships and cultivate happiness, success, and fulfillment in our lives. Not to mention, empathetic people are naturally more personable and charming. When we grow and operationalize empathy, others are more drawn to us, as they know we're paying attention and care about their feelings and well-being. Benefits of empathy. Empathy is a skill that we must learn and develop. In an age of untimely cruelty, opposites divide. Where diversity often causes fear or distrust, it has become increasingly crucial. The power of empathy can break down the barriers. It can show us how to understand each other, and that what sets us apart doesn't separate us. It's time to equip our kids with the understanding and passion they need to come together and collaborate. The powerful effects of empathy, compassion, and kindness are not to be overlooked, and it is essential from a young age to introduce these life-changing attitudes. Empathy is one of the most significant predictors of thriving, even more than academic excellence. More than that, it is the case for the ability of the child to describe their experience and ideas coherently and persuasively. Empathy is the ability to understand and experience the feelings of others. It aids in social interaction, life events, and emotional content. Empathy for others is critical to healthy, strong relationships at the core of happy, productive, and educational lives. Empathy and relationship building are two sides of the same coin. Empathy is a significant driver of professional or academic performance and a key predictor of happiness. Empathy empowers students to respect others while developing an understanding of the world around them, setting the basis for good leadership. Understanding emotional experiences. Have you ever felt hurt and alone, and a friend did something, perhaps something you didn't expect, that made you feel better? It's likely your friend was being empathetic. Empathy is the ability to step into another person's shoes, to understand and share the emotions one is feeling. When we practice empathy, we can more easily maintain fulfilling relationships. Empathy is an essential building block in emotionally intelligent individuals and successful relationships. It's not rare to find expressions of empathy in fictional situations. A good movie can be even more moving when the script and actors evoke performances that allow one to imagine the pain, love, or fear inflicted on another. Entering another person's world may feel good as you recognize and temporarily experience that person's feelings. Emotional sharing, being in the company of someone who seems to understand, appreciate, and accept us just as we are, contributes to our well-being. Empathy involves not only emotional sharing and understanding, but also self-awareness and regulation. It can guide ethical behavior by prompting us to act in ways that will bring about good outcomes for others. It is likely no surprise that individuals who have developed these social skills can build better personal relationships. These bonds can be strong enough to facilitate communication and collaboration, even when discussing tricky issues and disagreeing. Skills are critical today when electronic communication finds people responding to emails, texts, and chats rather than conversing face to face. Talking with someone in person and noting facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice helps us recognize and understand complex verbal and nonverbal messages. When we respond and react in real time through these many communication channels, relationships can develop more profoundly and meaningfully than by texting or email. Building meaningful relationships. The power of empathy is remarkable. It is the trait that starts the connection between two people. Those who emote empathy are more open, honest, and real. People who are not afraid to express their feelings are firm, not weak, because they have no fears of showing their vulnerabilities. That is true bravery. The benefits of any healthy relationship don't come from just mindfulness. It comes from awareness. Being mindful without awareness of the other person can lead to adverse effects, as you can be unassumingly selfish. Practicing acts of kindness and showing others we care and understand where they are coming from is how to create a special connection, whether with a stranger, a friend, a partner, or a child. Two strangers sat beside each other on a flight. As they talked, they realized that they would both put their marriages to rest. They showed empathy for each other and worried for each other. They held hands as the plane landed. They sat beside each other, listening to each other and crying. Their baggage was in tow, and they said their goodbyes. Creating connection and understanding. There's a profound difference between connecting to someone and understanding them. Connection comes quickly and easily thanks to similarities in upbringing, beliefs, or demographics. It is our social glue, the silent nod to a neighbor we recognize from town, or the shared comprehension of a commercial after watching only half of it. On the other hand, understanding a person and their place in life is challenging and complex. It requires empathy, the folly of taking on the experiences of another to understand their plight as they do. In today's reality, where we can connect with someone across the globe without making eye contact or feel like we truly get them without understanding their suffering, many members of the millennial generation find themselves at an impasse between craving digital connections and seeking a remedy through empathy for a flawed society. We collectively take more incredible strides to empathize and understand people similar to us, like friends or family, than those who differ from us, including strangers. Building meaningful connections with others, regardless of background, and addressing deep-rooted biases is essential to a more empathetic and connected society. Empathy is a bridge. In the modern world, we often struggle to communicate with one another in ways that establish meaningful connections and offer mutual understanding. It's easy to ignore someone else's perspective. Most of us know we can build bridges across differences and reach a more rewarding emotional space by cultivating empathy. But what exactly is empathy, and how can we make it? It is the ability to sense or know another person's emotions, thoughts, or feelings. Still, it is also differentiated from romance or affection. In a bond of empathy, you care about the other person as much as yourself. Still, the relationship is based on compassion and understanding rather than emotional investment. While we might desire to build empathy in moments of distress, our culture does not often support deep and substantive understanding attitudes. It values extroversion over introversion and less thoughtful communication over more meaningful conversation. Technological advances have allowed us to communicate with one another in various ways. Still, as a result, our exchanges are often less deep, less personal, and reveal less who we are to the people we share information with. Consequently, we usually find ourselves misunderstanding one another. We face the challenge of embracing a balance between empathy and personal distance. However, empathy and personal space are not mutually exclusive. Personal space is necessary to respect one another. People can unintentionally breach personal space and emotional boundaries by misunderstanding empathy, instead of establishing empathy as a bridge. Empathy can only exist in a space of mutual respect, fueled by an investment in creating meaningful connections that stretch across otherwise isolating interpersonal borders. Fostering compassion. Compassion, or empathy, is the force that binds people together. This concept is taken for granted but is foundational for societies to exist and thrive. Without compassion, societies would collapse into self-centeredness and, by extension, would inevitably self-destruct. Empathy is inherently human. Therefore, irrespective of race, color, gender, sexual orientation, and other identity characteristics, our capacity for compassion is one of the great equalizers among human beings. Many people feel estranged from empathy as if it's an undefinable force rather than an inherent trait. It's easier to forgo selflessness for selfishness when self-preservation is at risk. Our modern lives often make us more absorbed in ourselves, interested in our problems, and mainly ignore those around us. The cure to this, and by extension, the cure for society, is reinstalling the human connection in our lives. An act as simple as smiling is the simplest way to start this positive cycle. The sentiment is reciprocal. The giver feels the act's effects, and the receiver also feels the benefits of that positive interaction. In inverse of this, participating in an unempathetic act, just as passive-aggressively pushing in front of someone else in a queue, is also likely to evoke discomfort. These norms have a profound impact on behavior. For example, health behaviors, both positive and negative, cluster in social networks. If you are at a healthy weight, your friends are more likely to be at a healthy weight too. Happiness spreads through communities. This transmission was observed among family, friends, and friends of friends. Researchers attributed this spread of joy to the ebullience demonstrated or relieved by each individual subjected to a particular social experience, whatever it may be. Connection is our lifeblood. Although it might sound dramatic, its importance can't be overstated. It is how we can find commonality with one another. tear down those walls that separate us, and more often than not, bring about profound connections that can transform lives. As we journey through life, establishing and developing these connections is crucial. It's how we learn from one another, learn about different walks of life, and tick off those involuntary impulses to experiment. On a deeply personal note, connection makes us happy and helps us cope with life and the people we matter to. Encouraging collaboration. In practical terms, before working with people who express an interest in the topic, some discussion and reflection on the role of empathy in enhancing the effectiveness of collaboration might be helpful. In the past, we have found it beneficial to read relevant materials on empathy and cooperation, and then to discuss some of the questions raised in a group, or perhaps better, ask colleagues to discuss the questions in smaller groups. In any case, it is helpful to prime the pump with questions and observations. After the reading and discussion phase, when we were ready to work together, we asked participants at the start of a meeting, how will this time together be different if we build in some elements of empathy when we work together? We have concluded that empathy encourages 5 practices that help promote effective collaboration. First, empathy builds increased appreciation and openness when working with others. Fellow participants take the time to understand others on a deeper level. Consequently, participants become open to sharing their knowledge and skills, and, as a result, contributions are grounded in the dynamics of an enriched, open community of shared understanding. Second, empathy increases individual engagement and self-regulation, affirming how one feels about oneself in the present moment. A heightened sense of activism compels individuals to be part of responding to the task building, instead of self-isolating and relaxing forms of self-learning. Third, enhanced insights are shared that may not have been seen or shared without the disciplined practice of empathic discussion. This produces discovery and builds focus and clarity in communication. Fourth, the practical applications of empathy in real-world scenarios strengthen collaborative efforts. Interpersonal humanness becomes the intentional practice of gaining perspective. It is not left as a vacant thought when talking to others. Lastly, empathy enhances the sense of togetherness of participants collaborating. Is empathy about moving participants from a me focus to a we focus concerning developing the effectiveness of our collaboration?